Quer aprender a tocar guitarra muito bem, igual seus guitarristas preferidos? Esse cara é um dos melhores guitarristas do Brasil e tem um método pronto que com certeza pode te ajudar a se expressar na guitarra como você nunca imaginou. E se você não gostar, tem até 7 dias para pedir seu dinheiro de volta. Confere o primeiro link da descrição e comece ainda hoje.
It just does seem that John comes into your lives on a creative level at these moments, you know? It's like...
Third time.
I know.
Yes.
And I think about the first time when we were all just like decimated by the news. We all just finally found our band, and then it's like, oh, you know the guy who makes all that magic happen with that guitar? Like, he's not in the band anymore. It's like, what the... What does this mean? And again, with the benefit of hindsight, you know, there was stuff going on there, I guess, that made that reality just untenable for him. The second time around seemed like more of a holistic decision, or at least it seemed that way. Like it was more of a mature, an ability to be able to just have a little more altitude and see, rather than it just, I gotta go. It's like, no.
Yeah. So he came into the band in late '88, following the death of Hillel, which was already a hugely emotional loss, transition, discovery, who are we? And within 3 years, we had put out Blood Sugar and been on tour. And so he's, you know, hyper intelligent, hypersensitive, hyper cosmically attuned, you know, to a very extreme degree, which makes him who he is. And that was too much. Like, money and fame and attention and adulation and responsibility are not for everyone and can be impossible to digest or to make sense of or to live with. It could drive you absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And that's where he was, you know, at a super young age. And he was just on another level of awareness, but to the point where he was too sensitive. He was too empathetic within himself to tolerate all of that. So he just combusted.
I was going to say, was there some destructive side of that through immaturity and inability to understand what was going on? Like, much was made of the SNL performance, and you guys were always physical, but there's that moment at the end of the first song where it looks to me like you're definitely, literally kicking him up the arse. And I sort of wonder whether or not, and you wrote a bit about that in the book, whether it was just, you know, that was kind of, I guess, step one in understanding how to process that and how to deal with other human beings in that environment.
Yeah, we were both quite foolish at that stage, you know. We talked about it earlier, you know, I wanted things the way I wanted it and he wanted it the way he wanted it, and he may have been more evolved in some ways and less in others, but he disappeared and somehow we did survive.
Yeah.
And had this very interesting era with Dave Navarro. And John went down as far as he could. And then, you know, just the whisper of a ghost saying, hey, you know, I'm not gone yet. And we're like, okay, let's do this. Californication, by the way, Stadium Arcadium. And then he did make a holistic decision. He's like, it's not for me. It's too much attention, too much travel, too much chaos, too much
energy, all of it.
All of it. And so he walked away, and I think he needed a solid 12 years of processing all of that, which he was kind of willing to do, slowly. Like, who are these people? What do they mean to me? What have we done together?
Yeah.
You know, what life do I want to live?
Smart, really. I mean, to have the presence of mind to kind of realize that life is more than the sum of these parts and the sum of all this, and,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, super smart. And I think he figured out that as difficult as that situation could be, it's like, it's just life, and it's just an opportunity, and it's just being in a band, and maybe I can find a better way to do this where I don't take things too personally, and I still get to make beautiful music with my friends, and maybe not melt down, or maybe they won't melt down, or maybe we're older and different, and you know, enter Unlimited Love, which was really a fun and wild experience.
Sounds so fun. It's so light on its feet. It's crazy. I mean, apart from the 2 or 3 moments when I really feel like you're really pulling and in a very sort of beautiful and gifting way. Like, I'm not dressing this up. Not the one. I'm not dressing this up, Tangelo. Like, I'm getting into my zone. But there's so much lightness. Like, you know, aquatic mouth dance. It's just, I mean, that literally could be you guys in the late 80s just around, you know?
It is us in the late 80s just around, yeah. So when he came back, you know, he had the good sense to not want to pick up where we had left off when he walked away from tour in his holistic way. And he didn't want to recreate what we had done in the past, and he didn't want to have that expectation or the weight of like, oh, we have to go write a popular rock song. He was like, what if we just play a bunch of old blues songs, you know, from the 50s, and maybe some songs off the first 3 records.
Because he was rediscovering the guitar as well, right? He hadn't been playing a huge amount, at least.
Not a huge amount, but he came in, I feel like he had been playing for at least a year.
Right.
Which for him is a short amount of time.
This is the crazy thing that blows my mind about John, though, is that he follows the wind, right? He listens for the signs and he's so connected, and yet somehow he's been practicing in anticipation of this thing in some weird way as well. Just in case.
Just in case. But also all of the practice that he did with electronic music and with machines, and it's still music, and it was still him being in the process of creation. And all of that is valuable, you know, because he found new dimensions. But then there's him playing guitar also.
Like a beast.
Which is and unique and thoughtful.
Yeah.
And I feel like in the human genome, like there's this thing where, you know, we're lucky if we get that empathy gene, because that sort of makes us balanced, and I can feel your pain a little bit, but not too much. And I think John just got like 18
too much
empathy genes,
yeah.
And so he feels
an HSP.
What is that?
Highly sensitive person.
Yeah, which can be the best thing in the world, because, you know, if I'm troubled and I have like an idea in my mind, like there's something wrong here, he will just look at me from across the room and say, something's wrong. You're what are you troubled by? And I'll be like, excuse me. So he is that guy, and sometimes it's the most beautiful thing in the world, because he's like, come with me, let's make this together. Like, tell me what you're feeling, and I'll play
help
these.
You through it.
Yeah, and other times it's just maybe
well, he doesn't have an outlet that's big enough for what he's feeling, right?
He's got to have the outlet,
that's the thing.
Or the meditation or whatever it is.
Thank God he came back, because I think as we start to understand what that word means, what empathy truly means, which is a hallmark of an emotionally intelligent world, right? Which is, I really hope, you talk about being the eternal optimist, like it's too much for me to focus on the micro, so my macro hope is that emotional intelligence is the next fundamental era for our species, right?
Yeah.
As on a main level. If we go there, then we have to understand, my point being that a highly insensitive person, unless they have an outlet, or people who understand that, they look for other ways. They try and dull it.
Right.
And there's drugs and alcohol and all that other shit.
Yeah.
You know, distraction by destruction.
Yeah, I think there's hope for us.
Me too.